It's another excerpt about African family life, Wisdom of African Mythology by John J. Oliver, J.J. Oliver. Wisdom of African Mythology. Let's get into it. Let's read about African family life. African family life. African tribal society was divided into clans. Clans were major subdivisions of the tribe. Some tribes had over 100 clans, and some clans had over 1,000 people. The clan was further divided into gates, which were made up of a number of similar families. When a gate reached a certain size, it became a clan. Members of a clan assisted each other in times of need, especially in times of war. The family included far more than just members of a household. A family included its ancestors, both living and dead. It included all the wives, children, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. It was the sum of all those who had common ancestors. Families themselves were divided into households. While each household was further divided into individual members, compounds of related families formed a village. The houses were round and faced the center of the compound. African society focused on the family. The individual was but part of a whole. He did not and could not exist apart from the community. Remember that, everybody who says, I can do bad all by myself. Continuing on. Nothing was more important than the family. It was through the family that one obtained offspring, and it was through offspring that one obtained the gift of immortality and reached the blissful state of the living dead. This immortality was achieved only by continued remembrance in the minds of one's own descendants. As long as a person was remembered, he was preserved in a state of personal immortality. If parents had no children to remember them when they were physically dead, they vanished from existence altogether. Since the family was such an important part of African life, marriage, not single mammyism, my own opinion inserted, marriage was the duty of all Africans. It was a requirement of society itself. Those who did not marry were considered a curse. Let's look at that again. Those who did not marry were considered a curse upon the community. 42% of who will never be married or never get married? Huh? What? Let's go back and read that one more time. Those who did not marry were considered a curse upon their community. What do you see in African American communities? Shooting, killing, robbing, prostitutes, all over the goddamn place. But let's keep moving. The unmarried man was a rebel, a lawbreaker. He was looked upon as abnormal. Since the unmarried rejected society, society must also reject the unmarried. The choice of a mate was important in African life. Various tribes had various customs for choosing mates. Oftentimes, the choice was made by parents, sometimes even before birth. When the choice was made by the young people themselves, gotta flip a page. When the choice was made by young people themselves, parents were closely consulted and their advice was followed, for marriage was considered an integral part of the corporate community. Marriage was a religious duty. Clans were exogamous. Marriage among members of the same clan was forbidden. Africans believed the living dead were displeased with marriage of close relatives, incest. Since marriage was an expansion of society itself, society regulated marriage and celebrated the marriage ceremony with considerable festivity, gatherings and parties, dancing and drinking, feasts and covenant-making festivals. The exchange of gifts between families, ritual washings, and fertility rites all played a part in African marriage. Procreation completed marriage. So what is an abomination? A single black person engaging essentially in abortion. Procreation completed marriage. By birth, one captured immortality as parents were perpetuated in their offspring. Those who died without children became forever dead. But as long as a person was remembered by heirs, he or she was in some way living. This concept of living dead explains many marriage customs in Africa and why the African social status was increased by his children. If a man had no children, if a man had no children or only girls, he sought another wife to produce sons and survive him and keep him immortal. Polygamy was commonly practiced, for it increased the possibilities of and the number of offspring, and in this way guaranteed immortality. The only moral law or sanction regulating marriage and the family was the approval of community. Morality consisted not only in not breaking the communion of the living, the dead, and the spirits in God, but in maintaining it through charity. Those who broke this mystical link were punished by exclusion from the community, which was the worst type of punishment. For to be forgotten by family puts one in a state of non-existence. Life after death was the bedrock of African theological thought. Ancestral spirits living in the memories of their offspring lived underground, much like they lived on earth. They had their own chiefs and tribal assemblies. They continued to live a life not too different from their prior existence on earth. They received offspring and libations not because they needed them, but because they were symbols of love and signs that they had not been forgotten by their descendants. Got to flip the page. As long as the deceased African was remembered by those who loved him in life, he continued to live in some way and entered into that mystical life known as the living dead. Since the community was all important to African society, physical birth into it was not sufficient. There must also be a ritual birth or an initiation into it. Through this initiation, the individual was incorporated into the community and became conscious of his worth, his being, and the duties he or she had as a member of that community. Through these initiation rites, the I and the we were identified. Every birth was like the arrival of spring. The child born was not just born into a family. He or she was born into a community. The offspring was not referred to as my child, but our child. So you know that attitude you have nowadays, don't be putting your hand on my child. You know, that's an American-born abomination. A woman in Africa occupied a place of honor and prominence, a role that had been greatly reduced by European influence. She was the source of life's force and guardian of the house. She was the depositor of a clan's past and the guarantor of its future. So when they say guardian of the house, you know, the white feminist has brainwashed her into believing that, you know, she shouldn't be the traditional so-called subservient woman listening to a man, you know. But anyways, a person belonged. Hold on, let's go back. She was the depositor of the clan's past and guarantor of its future. A person belonged to the family of the mother. A child's first name was followed by that of his mother. It was the mother who raised the child in an atmosphere of love, tenderness, and freedom. It was she who perpetuated the community and was thereby esteemed by it. She needed no other task or interest to be fulfilled. Polygamy, however, had some built-in problems, like the jealous co-wife and the cruel stepmother. So in all this, we can see and clearly understand why there are so many issues and problems in African American society in America, because this right here, we ain't doing nowhere near this right here. And every good thing that a woman is has been demonized as bad, you know. But I know a lot of you chicken heads who ain't got your mind right might have been a little bit offended by the continuous mentioning of polygamy. So check out the next video and we will see and talk about the origins of polyandry and polygamy. That's when a woman has several husbands, and that's when a man has several wives. Check it out. It's your boy Vince Rashad. Holla.